So hello everyone. Good afternoon. I'm here in Heidelberg at the moment, and I hope to share a couple of ideas with you about the innovation at this interface between academia and industry. To start with, just a quick show of hands, how many of you are already entrepreneurs? I see you, just put your hands up. How many people are already entrepreneurs? Okay, a few. How many of you would like to be entrepreneurs? Hands up. How many of you know how to spell the word entrepreneur? Okay, good. So good to see this interest in entrepreneurship, because I think it's very important, and in Israel you're exactly at the right place. To start with, just a quick, let me just see whether I can switch. Just a quick introduction about myself. Let me see whether I can get this going. Yes. So first of all, I'm a scientist. I studied biology in Heidelberg and specialized in molecular biology, and then moved into virology and did my PhD in 1999. And already during this time, I started my first company, which was a company in the field of diagnostics. I don't know whether some of you are working with the Luminex technology, working with polystyrol beads, which are color-coded, and you can do basically up to 100, now up to 500 different assays in a single vial. It's similar to flow cytometry. And I was actually the first one to sign a license agreement with this company in Austin, Texas. And this was the basis for my first company. And very briefly, I mean, it didn't go too well. I had the same ambition like, the story of Theranos in Silicon Valley, measuring any type of analyte in a drop of blood. I basically had the same message starting in the early 2000s, and it didn't work then, and it doesn't work today. Was pretty bad. But then went into the second company, which was a cell therapy company in Heidelberg, Cytonet, working on liver cell therapy for children with genetic diseases. Went better, learned a lot. On the way, I was involved in quite a few other startups in Heidelberg. The next one I was really involved as a managing director was HiStem, the Heidelberg Institute for Stem Cell Technology and Experimental Medicine. That's an institute that is based here in the German Cancer Research Center, and today has around 60 or 70 researchers. I moved out after this was started, and it's all working with cancer stem cells and trying to identify means how to attack those cancer stem cells to treat cancer permanently. Next one, I slipped into regional development. That was a pretty funny situation. Here in Heidelberg, the German government tried to identify the 5 strongest high-tech regions and put up a very big call, and the prize money was 40 million euros, which was to be matched with another 40 million from industry companies. And actually my mentor at the time was Jürgen Schwitzer, the CEO of the Roche Diagnostics division. He called me and said, well, we need a concept here, and our university needs a little help because this is all directed towards economic value creation. So I wrote this strategy, and the strategy won the competition. And so I was there with basically 40 million euros funding and another 40 million from the private sector, total of 80 million, and then the local government added another 5 million. And normally I actually did this as a consultant, but my mentor asked me the night before we went to the final jury session, what do we do if you win this? And I thought, well, Heidelberg is a small place, Munich is much bigger, and Berlin also. So I said, well, if we win this, I do it full time. So that's how I ended up in regional development. Munich lost, Berlin was not even in the final round. So to cut a long story short, I'm also, in addition to being an entrepreneur, I'm also the head of the biotechnology region here in Heidelberg, and I'm going to tell you a little more about this later. Then in 2013, I started the BioMed Innovation Center, and this is going to be the major part of my talk, this concept of innovation at this interface between academia and industry, involving crowdsourcing and local incubation of talent. And then there was also another startup recently, it's called Startup Teens, which is actually bringing entrepreneurship to German schools. and trying to help kids to embrace the concept of entrepreneurship as a future career. And we do events at the schools, we do a nationwide business plan competition, and try to identify young entrepreneurs. By the way, if you have questions, just interrupt me. It might be a little difficult for me to hear every one of you, but if you wave like crazy from the back, this shows me that you have an urgent question. And Dana, if you see somebody who wants, yes, please let me know.
Yeah, I will mediate the questions.
Okay, thank you. So now let's move to the actual challenge of the pharmaceutical industry. For me to understand, who in the room is actually from life sciences or neurosciences in more specific? Hands up. All scientists? Okay. So you probably know this challenge of the big pharma industry. And this is a very nice piece of research, what you're seeing here. It looks at the last 60 years. You see that on the x-axis from 1950 to 2010. And what these people at the study did was they actually showed how many, or analyzed how many drugs could you bring to the market from early preclinical development to approval by the FDA. How many drugs could you bring to the market for $1 billion? And these numbers are adjusted by inflation. So what's now $1 billion would actually bring you in 1950 about 50 different drugs from early development to the market. And in 2010, it was not even half a drug anymore. So actually, big pharma has a decline of innovation productivity of a factor of 100 within only 60 years. So that's the challenge. The question is, how do they innovate more cost efficiently and fill their pipelines with something that will keep them alive and help them grow? Second challenge is that if you look at the global brain power, and we're living in an interesting time at the moment. 20 years ago it was different, but today every single research talent in the world can freely choose where he or she wants to pursue a career. So there's no barriers anymore. Anyone can freely choose. So so there is something out there which is the global brain power for life sciences, and maybe a measure of it is individual authors on PubMed. And so far we have around 11 million individual authors on PubMed, and every year 1 million, this is an exponential curve basically, so every year 1 million, around 1 million new authors are joining, which means huge brain power out there, and this is in contrast to what big pharmas have inside their walls, which is usually even the biggest pharmaceutical companies, just a couple of thousand researchers. And now they are sure at the moment, and they know that they cannot compete with this global brain power, and that they rather need to tap into this global brain power. And what they understand more and more is, according to this relationship, over 99% of the global brain power, the world's innovation, is residing outside of their company walls. And they need to overcome this problem. The way we are looking at it at BioMed and Heidelberg is we are doing it through crowdsourcing. And if we go back to this situation and compare how does innovation work and understand how does innovation work, then we see what farmers are not doing very well. So let me give you an example. Innovation, in fact, if you look at innovation output and you look at the major innovation hubs in the world, innovation output is something that correlates with the local density of talent. I mean, this is pretty obvious. The more talents you put in close proximity, the more innovation output you will get. But what I saw in the last 15 years working with startups and innovation is that another factor is as important as the local density of talent, which is the local diversity of talent. So having as many people from as many different backgrounds as possible in one room that look at the same problem from completely different directions. And there is a third component, and it's also as important, is putting those talents into a local environment that is conducive to innovation, meaning very low degree of administration, meaning that failure is okay. Usually in big pharma companies, if you fail, then part of your salary is gone because most of the researchers work on bonus. And if they don't meet their annual targets, they will lose part of their salary and they have to explain to their families why they're losing 50% of their salary. So what people are doing is they negotiate every year their goals in a way that they can actually reach it easily. And this is what brings those companies not towards disruptive innovation, but towards incremental improvement of existing products, because this is what they can predict. And as one of my mentors said, continuous incremental improvement in the end will give you excremental results. So you need to concentrate on something that really gives you the next disruptive step in innovation instead of just doing little tweaks of the existing products. The way we're doing it at BioMed is different from the way Pharma is doing it. Pharma, as you know, is very, very good at doing bilateral academic collaborations. So having scientists in Boston, in San Francisco, in Shanghai, also in Israel, of course, and doing bilateral collaborations. And what happens is, first of all, this first criteria of innovation, you don't have this local density and local diversity of people. And as you all know, innovation is something that does not happen while you're in the lab. Innovation happens when people from different backgrounds that are very bright and working on the same problem are sitting together for lunch or for dinner or at a retreat, and they discuss, oh, listen, I have this and this problem, I have no idea how to figure it out. And this guy then says across the table, well, why don't you take the cell line? I've worked with it a couple of years, I help you, and in a couple of weeks or months you'll be done with this experiment. This is how innovation happens, and this is what these individual bilateral collaborations worldwide, they take a lot of money, a lot of effort, and they're not going anywhere, most of them, because they're missing this cross-pollination effort. And the second problem is those companies need to identify the needle in the haystack. As you saw this big brain in the last slide, in order to tap into this innovation ecosystem, this global innovation ecosystem, they usually have scouts and they get input from different tech transfer offices, but it's too much really to screen everything. And what we're doing at BioMed, we're using something that has been used successfully by the IT industry, which is called crowdsourcing, to make the best solutions for your specific problem come to you instead of searching it out there. And what we do is we get a very tough problem from a pharma company, which could be, one example is a completely new approach how to tackle the immunosuppressive microenvironment of tumors. And then we post it worldwide at the best universities and research institutions, and we invite young postdocs to apply at BioMed with very original project proposals that solve this particular problem. So we make these ideas come to us. And then together with the pharma partner, we identify the best solution, the best ideas and talents, and we physically move them to Heidelberg. And how we're doing this, I'm going to show you in a minute. Of course, this crowdsourcing approach is not something BioMed has invented. How many of you know the company Innocentive? Show of hands. Anyone heard of it? So this is something that is started from Boston. It's actually, as far as I remember, a spin-off from Lilly. And what they do is they also do a crowdsourcing approach. You can go to their website, and lots of companies post challenges on their website. And also they have at Nature, the journal, they have on the website, they have something that's called Nature Pavilion, and they post it there as well. And they also invite young people to provide solutions to these problems. And these are not just life sciences, they're from all different fields. You can go there and make some additional money by providing solutions, and the winners actually get a cash prize. And if you're doing it well, then this company starts a bilateral collaboration. It's a model that works quite well. The downside is the companies get those ideas, but then they have no clue how to reduce it to practice. And this is what BioMed does different. We basically identify the talents together with the ideas and then let them work in a joint environment on the solution. How are we doing this? So, by the way, if you're interested, I was surprised too. You see at the bottom that we published this new model in Nature Biotechnology. I was very surprised that nobody's doing it, and up to date, nobody's doing it so far, which I think it's a pretty obvious model, but that's how it is. And it works like that. So first step is this global crowdsourcing, worldwide call for applications and invitation of the best talents to provide their ideas. Second is a boot camp, the best of the best we invite to a local boot camp here in Heidelberg. And Dana was actually part of one of those boot camps, didn't sleep a lot. She can tell you a little more about that firsthand afterwards. And we let people come together and really challenge themselves. And in the end, the best of this boot camp get an invitation to join BioMed in Heidelberg in a research fellowship. Now, in detail, how are we doing this? The call for applications we are posting, and usually we are posting them on the major job portals like Nature Jobs, Science Career, Cell Networks, ResearchGate, LinkedIn, but also at the major universities and research institutions. They put a poster on their billboards, and we're also addressing directly the major groups in the world that are working in the particular target field. And then we get those applications, and then we select and invite the best proposals and the best people on basically three levels. One is the group leader level. These are established postdocs that are now looking for a group leader position. Second level is postdocs, young postdocs, and the third one is master level candidates. And then we invite 15 candidates to a 5-day boot camp to Heidelberg. It's a very intense experience. People don't know each other, and we match them. On the first day, there is an exercise called My Life, My Work, My Passions. So everybody pitches in front of everybody about their passion, about their work, about their hobbies. And at the end of the day, we ask every single one anonymously, if you could choose a group leader among the candidates, who would you choose and why? Or if you could choose a postdoc, a fellow postdoc, who would you choose and why? And then we do cluster analysis that night and match people by their by reciprocal likes. So if group leaders like postdocs and postdocs like group leaders, so we put them in a group. And from the second day, they have to work in those groups. And what is also important, and I'm going to show you the core values of BioMed as well, we're looking not for people that are just very smart, but people that energize their environments. So we don't want this silo mentality which is found at universities or which is found at big companies, where people don't share their data, don't share their research because they're afraid of other people copying what they're doing, and this is not the basis for innovation. Innovation needs free sharing of ideas, and where people are rewarded that help other people rather than that prevent other people from getting knowledge. And so the day before the last day is called the dry run, and usually we have 5 teams that are competing for quite substantial budgets. So those budgets are between $3.5 and $4 million, and I tell them the beginning of the 4th day, where they are asked to present what they put together and what they would present on the finals on the last day in front of everyone. So everyone is sitting in the room, and one team is presenting at a time, and then there is 15 minutes of jury. So everybody puts themselves in the shoes of jury members and asks very tough questions so that the team can note down the questions and prepare for the questions that will definitely come the next day. And then there is 15 minutes how everybody would improve this presentation if it was yours. So, and people help each other, and we watch them very carefully. Who is the one who energizes, who helps the environment most? And on the last day, then they compete then in front of the grand jury, which is senior vice president level usually of the pharma company and ourselves. And we basically pick the winner, and there is only one group leader who can win, who gets the invitation to join BioMed with the fellowship, gets the control over the budget. And this, together with this group leader, we decide which of the postdocs we would like to invite also to BioMed. This is just an example of the type of metrics we are getting. So when we post a call for applications, this was one for Roche last year. We got over 600 applications from 64 countries. Of course, there is a little bias for Germany because many of those candidates that are applying are Germans who have spent a career in the United States or in Asia, and just before moving to the next level position, they want to come back home. But of course, we have very broad coverage across all different countries. Male, female is usually well balanced. This was a call where we had a little more male participation, but in general, it's 50-50. And you see the different levels, how people applied. And then we selected 17 candidates this time from 11 countries, who then came to the boot camp. So we flew them in, paid for the flights, and they stayed here with us with this very intense program. Didn't sleep a lot for 4 nights, but also had a lot of fun. And then in the end, 5 candidates were invited to join BioMed. Just to give you an idea about the atmosphere of those boot camps, on the right side you see the fellows that participated and some people of our staff. If you spot carefully, the bald guy on the right side is myself, so I'm in the middle of it. And on the left side you see basically the entire senior management of Roche Diagnostics from Basel. They are part of the jury, and they're actually the ones who decide then whether they want to continue the project after it ended at BioMed in-house at Roche. This is the type of atmosphere you see. It's very interactive, very intensive. Now, as soon as we selected the candidates, they are moved, physically moved with their families to Heidelberg for the fellowships. So one of my colleagues here in Heidelberg, Yvonne, we call her Chief Happiness Officer, and she actually helps people to move. So we help with visa, we help to find new homes, kindergarten spots for the children, jobs for the spouses that are moving as well, whatever they need. And then they live and work in my innovation center for a period of up to 4 years. And they literally live and work in this atmosphere here. So they cook together, they go on retreats together, they do sports together. It's a very, very intense and very close interaction. And people are selected by their ability to energize each other and help each other. Every team by definition has 3 coaches, and this is very important. One is the so-called industry mentor. This is the researcher from the sponsor side, from the industry sponsor side, who is responsible for the project and gives hints about the value of the translational value of what the group is producing. Then the second one is the academic mentor. That's usually a professor from the local ecosystem who makes sure that our science is correct, but also can help us to take PhD students. And then the third one is either myself or my management colleague, Anne de Berkelaar, who makes sure that these guys meet at least once a month physically at BioMed and discuss the past month's experiments and the next month's experiments. In addition to that, what I didn't tell you so far, I'm also teaching entrepreneurship at the University of Heidelberg. We have now for 14 or 15 semesters, we have a lecture series called Biotech Entrepreneurship and Leadership Lectures, where we invite very successful business leaders and entrepreneurs who talk in front of the students about their worst mistakes. Because as one of my mentors says, it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's even better to learn from other people's mistakes. So it's important to put these very successful people in front of younger people to see what mistakes they made. And also the other program is a compact course. It's called Biotech Entrepreneurship Training Program. And what people learn there is they get randomly, we put them in teams, they get randomly a current scientific publication, and they have to translate that into a business idea and present this business idea in front of everyone. And all BioMed fellows participate in those programs in order to learn about entrepreneurship. And this is actually also part of what BioMed is all about. In the end, what we're producing at BioMed is intellectual property and qualified top talents. And the beauty of this model is there's no venture capital involved. I started in 2013. There's no venture capital involved, no bank loans, no investors, no public money. I own the entire company and I make the decisions, which allows me not to compromise on quality especially, and focus on outstanding talent and not on short-term shareholder value. Now, what's also important is, and this is very similar to your situation, is being embedded in a local academic ecosystem where lots of research is going on in different institutions. And what I told you in the beginning, I'm also the head of the bioregion of BioRN, which stands for Rhine-Neckar. That's the two rivers. What you see on the left side on the map, the river that's flowing from bottom to top, that's the river Rhine. And the river that's flowing from the right to the left, that's the river Neckar, Rhine-Neckar. So that's all around Heidelberg. There's a couple of cities involved. And in my association there is quite a few biotech companies with R&D. There is 4 global players, Roche, Merck, AbbVie, and Boehringer Ingelheim. All 4 are also partners of BioMed. And 6 universities and research institutions, which is a total, if you calculate all together, it's around 40,000 jobs. In a circle of about 1 hour drive. And what's even more important is a really dense local ecosystem. So you're sitting at the moment on the campus of the Tel Aviv University. It's a very nice campus. I've been there many times, and it's very similar to the campus in Heidelberg. The difference is Heidelberg campus is a little larger and it's just life sciences. So there's only medicine and biology. 140 hectares or 350 acres. 15,000 jobs just in biotech and medicine. And in the middle of it is the technology park with 500,000 square feet. Around 100 companies are there. And BioMed is in this technology park. So in the middle of it, and since I'm also the head of this bioregion, the first thing I do when new researchers come to BioMed, I introduce them to the heads of all, it's around 20 research institutions on campus, so that they have immediately the network, which usually would take 10 years to build at least. They have it from scratch, and they can use all the core facilities on campus, like the animal facility, mass spec facility, NMR facility, super resolution microscopy facility. I mean, there's lots of things that are available locally. And this is BioMed. At the moment, we have 2 floors, total of 15,000 square feet. 60 researchers from all around the world, and we're just 2.5, close to 3 years old, and growing very rapidly. Now, coming to the core values, and this is, I'm very serious about this, because this is the essence why this innovation at this interface between academia and industry works. It's all about trust, and it's about true collaboration, and silos are completely not allowed. First is, and we have it here, we put these core values at the wall of every floor where BioMed is to remind people constantly. So first of all is cross-leverage. What is very important is that we help and energize each other. It's much more worth sharing knowledge and getting other people to help and helping other people than just protecting your IP and knowledge and not sharing with anyone. And one of these examples is here at BioMed we have a Friday meeting every Friday where the group leaders decide among themselves who of their postdocs is ready to present his or her work in front of everyone. And then everybody's in the room. And you have to imagine those groups are sponsored by competing pharma companies. I'm going to show you some details about it, but this is not pre-competitive. This is highly competitive research. And they present in front of everyone. And then the last part of the presentation is what they want to do next, what the next big challenge is in their project. And then everybody contributes how to improve the science of this particular project. And the more people we get in here, and now we have people from nanotechnology and from mathematics and from bioinformatics, every Friday there is at least 2 or 3 hands coming up and saying, well, what you're trying to do here, I write you 5 lines of code and you will be done by tomorrow. Or then someone with new antibody technology comes up and say, I make you a quick binder, cost me 1.5 months, and then you'll be much quicker with what you're doing. So people help each other across teams. Very important. Second one is cross-pollinate. Diversity is, as I said, diversity is extremely important for innovation. And why this is, I can give you a little anecdote. Very dear friend of mine who was the former head of the Center for Entrepreneurial Learning in Cambridge, UK. His name is Shailya Karnam, Indian guy. And he said something I thought is actually hitting the nail on the head. He said, you cannot make innovation, innovation happens. And then he said, and in places like Cambridge, it tends to happen more often than in other places. And what does it mean? Many politicians and also company heads and heads of institutions, they say, let's get together, we innovate. And you please do this innovation, you do this innovation, you do this innovation. This is not how it works. Innovation is something, if it's true innovation, it's something that's unpredictable. And the only thing you can do is increase the probability that it actually happens. But you cannot sort of tell you, at the end of the year, you will have innovated in this or this field. Doesn't work. And so you have these three factors in the beginning. I told you that actually increase this probability of success. Local density of talent, local diversity of talent, and a local ecosystem that is conducive to innovation. These are the three factors. And this is important with the cross-pollinate. We need diversity. And if you're coming, any one of you been to Germany before, traveled to Germany? No one? Oh, there's one in the back. So for the ones who have been, Heidelberg is a very nice place to visit. At the moment, it's very warm, actually. So we have 27 degrees today, which is very unusual for this time of year. And also to come and visit the BioMed Innovation Center. What you will see is people that are coming from all different backgrounds, all different cultural backgrounds, different religions, different scientific backgrounds, more academia industry oriented. And this is really this is the essence of innovation. Let's go to the next. BioMed, and this is what we tell everyone that is coming to BioMed. It's not a place for doing a little science. It's a place where people with high ambitions go from here to get their career from here to there. And everybody is expected to really put a lot of effort in creating this type of innovation environment and producing outstanding science. This is also very important. If you have and this is why companies are not good at it, big companies usually have, let's say, 10 to 20% highly talented people, and the rest is not so talented or below average. And the problem is due to the unions and the problems in big companies, they cannot just fire people that are low performers, they're part of the system. But if you put top people in a room and want them to innovate, and there's a couple of people in between that actually are not on the same level, innovation will not happen. This is a very interesting phenomenon. So you need to put really just super bright people in the same room and keep everybody else out. So I see that is lots of super bright people in the room, right? Okay. Another interesting phenomenon is when I started BioMed, it was completely unclear whether we can get top people from the top schools. And in fact, now this is just the slide from last year, just putting some of the institutions where our fellows came from. We have two group leaders from the Whitehead Institute, MIT in Boston. We have one group leader from University of British Columbia. She's actually the one heading the Alzheimer's research group, Dagmar Ehrenhöfer. We have people from NIH, Harvard, Oxford. We have a very bright group leader from Georgia Tech. So interestingly, people from those top schools are willing to move to such a place like Heidelberg. And Heidelberg and Tel Aviv have many things in common. The weather, not so much, but it's a very livable place. Why do talents come to BioMed? And this reflects what we got from surveys we've done among the participants of our boot camps, and you can probably relate to it. So first of all, what's important is that you have funding for a certain period of time, and you don't need to justify, especially as a group leader, you don't have to justify what you're doing with these $3 to $4 million for these 4 years. Of course, you have goals, but you don't have to write grants. You don't have to teach. You have the full control as a group leader over the budget. You can just focus on research and outstanding publications. And the point is also, and this I haven't told you so far, in our agreements with our pharma sponsors who pay for the research, we have terms that they can actually delay publications up to 6 weeks if they want to file a patent application, but they cannot prevent publication. And this, we make this very clear. we are focused on outstanding publications so that at the end of the project, everyone has a continuous publication record and can freely choose whether you want to go back to academia or go into industry or startup. Creative cross-cultural teamwork atmosphere. This is also present in many universities and research institutions I've seen so far. The guidance of experienced mentors from academia and industry. This is something that is very important because usually in academia, people don't teach you the concept of intellectual property, of economic value creation. What does it take to lay the foundation for a successful product? This is not something, at least in most universities I know, that is part of the curriculum. And this is important. We actually teach our fellows through this academic and industry mentor, both sides, outstanding science, but also application, which is important. Of course, Heidelberg is an outstanding environment with this direct access to the leading institutions. And I've told you, due to the fact that I'm head of BioRN, everybody has very close connections to the head of all different kinds of institutions, like the German Cancer Research Center, like the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, Center for Molecular Biology Heidelberg, National Center for Tumor Diseases, Max Planck Institute for Medical Research, University Hospital with its 16 clinics sitting here on campus directly, biology and medicine faculty. I mean, there's lots of resources that are available. And of course, in addition, intensive leadership and entrepreneurship training. This enables basically people, while they're at BioMed and doing outstanding research, at the same time, they're getting the skills to choose freely at the end of the career, of this 4-year period, which career path they want to go. Whether they want to go back to academia, become a professor, start a company, or move maybe to the sponsor, a big pharma company. So in total, it's a risk-free assessment of a possible future career in a startup or big company, which is usually very difficult if you want to do that from academia.